Welcome back to the class. We are continuing our discussion with Emil Durkheim, uh, his division of labor, and this is the second class or second session on his work, division of labor. In the previous class, we discussed some of the very important concepts that Durkheim used in order to build his argument about a host of very interesting aspects, starting with this fundamental question: what holds the society together, and how are societies becoming more and more complicated? Or, in other words, Durkheim was trying to ask the question: how and why are societies undergoing social change or social transformation? And what happens to a host of important concerns or host of important processes and dynamics when these societies move from one stage or one type of societies to that of other. And we discussed that he introduces this concept of collective conscience as a sum total of beliefs and value systems that almost every member of that particular society upholds. And we discussed its four important features, and we discussed that on the basis of this understanding of collective consciousness, collective conscience, in other words, he distinguished societies into two groups. One is a set of societies characterized by mechanical solidarity, and the other one is societies characterized by organic solidarity. So we are continuing that discussion on his magnum opus, the division of labor. So now in this class, we are looking at some of his larger arguments which follow the same logic of this distinction between societies characterized by mechanical solidarity and that of organic solidarity. So here he brings in a very important analysis on the questions of law and punishment, okay? Especially questions of legal system, questions of the whole idea of social norms, enforcement of social norms, and how this enforcement of social norms differ in primitive societies and in modern societies. And it's an extremely important argument, okay? And for any student of sociology of law, or even the law student, the discussions and arguments and observations of Durkheim are something very, very important. They're canonical, because he gives some very fascinating arguments and accounts about this transforming the genesis and the characteristics and the evolution of laws in different types of societies. So he argues that there is a very close connection between the legal systems and the collective consciousness that we discussed the other day. So collective consciousness does not exist in isolation, or it does not exist in vacuum. It gets reflected in a host of social institutions. Okay, we discussed that in societies which is characterized by extremely rigid form of collective consciousness, there won't be much of a flexibility. The idea of individual freedom would be very, very rudimentary. It would be almost non-existent. The idea of multiple forms of faith, or multiple forms of political authority, multiple forms of marital arrangement, multiple forms of living in different forms of family. All these ideas do not exist, because in societies characterized by strong collective consciousness, things would be more regimented, things would be more simple, things would be more similar. They will be heavily homogenized. So he argues that on the basis of this collective consciousness, he brings in two very important types of legal system. One is a repressive law, the other one is a restitutive law. And again, I am emphasizing the argument that he presents these two as a kind of ideal, typical categories, not as something that can be empirically verifiable at every place. So one is the repressive law, and the second one is this restitutive law. So in pre-modern era, or in primitive societies, as we discussed, the best example could be that of a tribal society. With its strong collective consciousness, the legal code insists mainly of penal laws with repressive sanction. So his argument is that in the primitive societies, the primary aim, or the prime of the fundamental objective of the law is to punish. Okay, it is to punish, it is to teach a lesson, it is to repress the people who violate the norms. So that is why he uses the term, it is repressive. Okay? It is not these legal systems do not talk about reformation. These legal systems do not talk about giving an opportunity for that person to reform and then come back and then get reintegrated. No, these societies mostly function with the aim of penalizing the person, punishing that person. That is why he uses the term penal law or with repressive sanctions. It operates through the informal agency of society as a whole rather than through the authority of specialized institutions. And in most of these societies, you will not have specialized institutions like a court system or a legal system. Rather, it works as a collective agency of the society, and because the division of labor would be at a very rudimentary level in these societies. So he argues that violations fall under the jurisdiction of penal law. They are considered crimes and they are subjected to repressive sanctions ranging from banishment to dismemberment to execution. And if you look into the kind of punishment that existed in pre-modern world, it's a very interesting area of investigation. You will see that there were quite a lot of mechanisms and machines and equipments were developed by these societies to inflict maximum pain on the accused. Okay, so here if somebody was ordered to be killed, the killing process could be quite ruthless. It's not that the person could be killed immediately, but a host of civilizations across the world had devised very so-called sophisticated equipments to inflict maximum pain and to ensure that the person suffers the maximum before he breathes his last. So he talks about that there are different forms of punishment ranging from banishment from the community, especially in other words, you understand it as this excommunication. A person is banished from the community no longer has any association with that. And that this was a very powerful form of punishment in India, where members were expelled from the caste. They were excommunicated from the caste or from the village if they had violated some of these caste rules, and to that of dismemberment or to that of execution. And we know that each of these punishments are not reversible. Okay? Once they are done, and it cannot be remedied. And that is why there is quite a lot of discussion and debates even now ranging about the acceptability of capital punishment. Because capital punishment is an ultimate punishment, which you cannot reverse it. You cannot undo that. Once it is done, the person's life is taken permanently. Okay? And so that is why a host of discussion, along with its moral and ethical standards, there's a whole lot of discussions about the acceptability of capital punishment in the modern world. So the punishment of the function of punishment in such cases, Durkheim argues, is less to exact vengeance on the guilty rather than to reaffirm the authority of the tradition and secure the continued compliance of the innocent. It's an extremely important argument. Here he argues that you know that we usually ask this question: what is the fundamental aim of punishment? Okay, you know that once in a class when the teachers punish the children, okay, most of the time it also has the intention of teaching a lesson to others. It's not only to punish the person, punish the child who has done some mischief, but rather it also is used by the teacher to send out a larger message to others that this particular child or this particular boy or girl has done something wrong and I am punishing, and this is a message for all of you to comply. You are not supposed to violate the rules that I have set out or the school has set out, and that is how discipline was instilled or discipline was enforced. So here as well, Durkheim argues that in the pre-modern societies, in societies where this penal or repressive laws existed, the fundamental idea was to secure the continued compliance of the innocent. Okay? So the punishment becomes a performance. The punishment becomes a performance. It becomes a symbol, and a symbol which sends out message to others who are yet to commit a crime. That is why in most of these places, punishments were performed in public. Executions were performed in public. Even now, in Saudi Arabia, public execution is a public spectacle. Okay? Execution is a public spectacle. Beheading is a public spectacle. So in quite a lot of traditional societies, pre-modern societies, and execution, taking away a person's life, was done in full public view. Okay? And also, if you inquire into these modalities, there were quite a number of very interesting cases about how people's lives were taken in a prolonged way. People were executed, people were hung from tree branches, from a host of very public things, and then the others could see these people struggling for their life. So this whole idea of sending out message as a lesson is something very important. Legal interventions serves the purpose of bolstering the collective consciousness, thereby contributing the continued cohesion of the society. So here Durkheim has this very interesting argument that the punishment is something extremely necessary for a society. It's an extremely necessary component for a society, because the deviance as well as punishment play a very important role in reinforcing the boundaries of what is accepted and what is non-accepted. So the theme argues that you can't imagine a society where there are no crimes, so there are no forms of punishment, and such a society simply do not exist. You can't have a society of all very good people, excellent people who does not commit any crime or who does not violate any norms. That is impossible, because a society requires a concrete understanding about what is permitted and what is not permitted. And this understanding is reinforced only when somebody tries to violate that and that person is punished. And he's only talking about how this particular process undergoes change from that of a pre-modern to that of a modern society. On the other hand, in modern societies, with its advanced division of labor, the legal code consists mainly of cooperative laws with a restitutive sanctions. Okay? So in a modern society, as the society is becoming more differentiated, society is becoming more complicated, there are exclusive institutions such as a legal system and courts and advocates and then constitution and law enforcement agencies. So such established division of established institutions ensure, and it mainly revolves around a kind of cooperative laws with a restitutive function. So restitutive is to restore the damage that is already done. It is not, the primary aim is not to annihilate the person who has done a crime, or the primary aim is also not to teach a lesson to the innocent people, not to send out a message, but rather to ensure that a more collective coexistence is possible. So that is why he is emphasizing on this whole argument of cooperative and restitutive sanction. And you know that the fundamental motive of modern legal system, or especially that of punishment, is to reform the culprit. Reintegration of the offender is an extremely important objective of any modern system of punishment. Every systems of imprisonment, the jail systems across the modern societies are increasingly getting oriented towards this whole question. Okay? What do you do? How do you ensure that this person who has committed an offense is brought back to the mainstream society? How is he reintegrated into the society? How can be reformed? So even a jail sentence is considered to be an opportunity for this particular person to get reformed. So jail punishment is not seen as a system of inflicting more and more agony on this person, but it is seen as an opportunity. It's seen as an opportunity for this person to get reformed and then to become a completely functional, integrated person once he is out, or he or she is out of this imprisonment. So cooperative laws such as civil laws, property laws, business laws, etc. become the dominant form, with the penal law reduced to a proportionately small fraction of the legal code. Very important observation. In modern societies, of course, you have a criminal system of law that exists to look into all kind of criminal activities, but an increasingly more number of legal domains emerge which look into the civil cases, in case of property laws, business laws, patenting laws and corporate laws, a host of laws which simply did not exist in the pre-modern societies. So this modern legal system is designed less to quash evidence than to achieve restitution, less to punish criminals than to restore the orderly functioning of the social life. So the fundamental aim is to restore the orderly functioning of the social life. Restitutive law, in contrast to repressive law, Durkheim argues, serves the purpose of managing cooperative relations and enabling individuals and institutions to work together in a regular fashion. And this is the most important argument. Okay? The legal system, it changes its character once it moves from societies characterized by mechanical solidarity to societies characterized by organic solidarity. Okay? From a repressive character, it moves into a restitutive character. The aim of the law in a modern society is to encourage, enable people to work together, live together amicably, and then function the society in a more regular manner. And from here, we will spend some time trying to understand how does Durkheim brings in this element of social change. Now, so far from the discussion, you must have understood that he is talking about two scenarios. One is a set of societies characterized by mechanical solidarity, another set of societies characterized by organic solidarity. Now, he's trying to explain how this change happens. How do societies from a mechanical solidarity moves into societies move into that of a organic solidarity. So Durkheim's view of social change revolves around an analysis of the causes and consequences of increases in the division of labor with respect to the volume and the density. So Durkheim's analysis of social change revolves around the whole question of division of labor. Division of labor becomes the parameter for Durkheim to understand social change. Okay? And this is a very important argument. And this he talks about this argument in terms of the volume of division of labor and the density of the division of labor. So this volume refers to the population size and the concentration. You know that division of labor becomes imperative once the population of a society exceeds a particular limit. You can't have no division of labor with a huge society. Division of labor is bound to happen. And the density, it pertains to the increased interaction arising from the escalated volume. So this density of division of labor, he talks about, it is again a necessity that emerges when, because of this increased interaction arising from the escalated volume of a population. So when a population grows in size, it becomes more complicated. The interaction gets more complicated because there will be division of labor, and historically it is you will see quite a lot of evidence that which connects the kind of between the increase in population size and the kind of a prosperity. The human society had very limited number when they were leading a very nomadic hunting gathering kind of a life, because the material availability was very less. Whereas this invention of agriculture, the production of surplus food, it played a very important role in increasing the number of people who are available. And that really led to increased division of labor. People could devote more time into other activities because everybody does not need to spend their time on cultivation or agriculture. And that is why societies became more and more complicated. So from this is the quotation. The division of labor varies in direct ratio with the volume and density of societies. And if it progresses in a continuous manner in the course of social development, it is because societies become regularly denser and generally more voluminous. And this is he's talking about how societies move from a small, simple, less populated society into a more voluminous one. So this volume, it's not only the number increases, but when the number increases, the intensity of their interaction also increases. And Durkheim argues that Durkheim saw migration, population growth, and ecological concentration as causing increased material density, which in turn caused increased moral or dynamic density, that is, escalated social contact and integration. So all these aspects, the migration of people from other areas to one area, population growth and ecological concentration, because if there are natural barriers or natural boundaries, then you get to see that large number of people are concentrated in a particular geographic area. So this ecological concentration as causing increased material density, which in turn also causes what Durkheim calls it as a moral or dynamic density, that is the escalated social contact and interaction. The increased rate of interaction characteristic of large population within a confined ecological space cause increased competition or struggle among individuals. Now, Durkheim is explaining this actual mechanisms that leads to the increased division of labor. Okay? So when there are more number of people, what they are congregated in a given space, he argues that it leads to increased competition or struggle among the individuals, and in such a scenario, talents and resources play important role in differentiation among the people into different division of labor. Now, the game provides a very impression that it's an automatic process that takes place. People with better character, people with better abilities and better knowledge and better talents, they tend to occupy more specialized fields compared to others who do not have that. People with certain skills, they might become artisans. People with better intellectual abilities might become the kind of scholars or priests or others. So people with better physical ability, people who are good at martial arts, might become a group of people who can be called as a soldiers or martial art experts. So he's presenting this argument as something arising out of the increased concentration. The function of the division of labor is to promote social solidarity or societal integration. So once this increased number of specialization emerge, that leads to kind of organic solidarity because one group requires the other groups. The group of soldiers require the group of cultivators, the group of artisans, the group of intellectuals, the group of priests, the group of religious scholars, and then others in order to protect. And it is a marked difference from that of a pre-modern era where everybody, that one person was almost doing all these functions. So here he brings in that kind of a transformation. The concept of function allowed Durkheim to judge whether a structure such as the division of labor was functioning normally for a particular type. So now from here Durkheim comes into this whole question of evaluating a particular society, and here he brings in this whole idea of what is normal and what is pathological. And we discussed that in the previous class as well. This has been a major concern for Durkheim throughout his career. Okay, what is normal and what is pathological? And he took a very moral position. He argued that societies in a pathological state cannot be allowed to continue, or it should be it should be rectified. And he believed that sociology as a discipline has the ability to make those kind of corrections in a scientific manner. So he argued that the concept of function allowed Durkheim to judge whether a structure such as a division of labor was functioning normally for a particular type of society. So if there is a particular level of division of labor, Durkheim argued, he can look at and then say whether it is normal or pathological by looking into the kind of functions that this particular structure puts out. So he was preoccupied with the question of normal and pathological with a strong moral position, as we discussed. These considerations led him to analyze abnormal forms of the division of labor. So he argues that division of labor, while it emerges in a very natural manner, also can assume certain abnormal characteristics. And this is an extremely important argument because he was really puzzled by, or he was really worried by a host of issues that he saw in many of these modern societies, especially that of France and many other European societies. He was really troubled by what he saw as a set of abnormal or pathological conditions. So he discusses a couple of types of this abnormal or pathological forms of division of labor, and one is this anomic division of labor, a very, very important aspect which directly has a kind of a consonance with that of Karl Marx, because we discussed in the previous class that Marx is somebody who really theorized alienation. He transformed that concept from a very idealistic position to that of a very materialistic argument, that alienation is a product of capitalism and you can't have a society free of alienation within the capitalistic system. So Durkheim also speaks about alienation, but markedly different from a Marxian analysis. So he argues that the challenge of maintaining individuals' commitment to common set of values and beliefs while allowing them to pursue their specialized interest. He argued that there could be always conflict between a person's actual passion, a person's actual interest in pursuing his own, his own interest and his commitment to and compulsion to the kind of a larger collective, larger collectivity. Okay, if a person is quite passionate about singing, but at the same time he might be forced to do a kind of a manual work because that is what is demanded from the society. So that, he argues, could lead to a situation something similar to alienation. So when transformations of society from a mechanical to an organic basis of social solidarity is rapid, it causes the generalizations or enfeeblement of values. With generalization, individuals' attachment to and regulation by values are lessened. So when this transformation happens, people usually lose their kind of the very strong sense of attachment to certain values, and people get alienated. And alienation is a result at the individual level, that because of various reasons they are not able to find themselves as being a part of a larger collectivity. But markedly, he did not agree it as something inevitable, unlike Marx, who argued that you can't eliminate alienation without eliminating capitalism, because capitalism has this structural ability to alienate workers, as per the Marxian arguments, which we discussed in the previous class. Then second one is what a second type of abnormal or pathological division of labor that Durkheim talks about is the forced division of labor. Division of labor does not emerge spontaneously, rather it's been forced upon people. Durkheim saw inequalities based on ascription and inheritance abnormal, as it works against the natural division of labor based on qualities and abilities. And it looks like Durkheim was rather naive in understanding the power of this ascription and inheritance. Okay, if somebody is inherited a huge amount of wealth, or somebody is born into a feudal family, an upper class elite family, okay, the kind of privileges that that person is endowed with is something monumental, and that cannot be, and that person is already on a much privileged position in terms of his or kind of capitals, or kind of cultural, social, and economic capital, which is uncomparable with a person who does not have any of these capitals, or does not have any of these things. But Durkheim argued that this particular division of people who already have this this ascribed qualities. Somebody is being born into a particular race, particular family, particular caste, and then inherited a lot of wealth and cultural capital. This he argued as abnormal, because it works against the natural division of labor based on qualities and abilities. Because for him, the division of labor must be natural. It has to be based on a person's own ability. A person's own orientation and ability must really decide what should be the kind of specific vocation that he or she wants to specialize. But Durkheim identified that that's not how the society works, and he frames that as a kind of a pathological situation. He analyzes exploitation and class domination, but believed that with the transition into an organic society, these social ills will disappear. So that is why I mentioned that he had rather a very naive understanding about the about social inequality. While he was critical of Marx, he was also did not pay attention into the actual functioning of power relations. How powerful could be different forms of domination, and how domination it uses various resources, including direct force, including cultural domains, and a host of other things to maintain the kind of a domination, which was the favorite area of inquiry of Karl Marx. Then the inadequacy, the third type of problem that Weber identifies is the inadequately coordinated division of labor. Okay. Division of labor exists, but it is inadequately coordinated. Durkheim noted that specialization of tasks is not accompanied by sufficient coordination, creating a situation where energy is wasted and individuals feel poorly integrated into a collective flow of life. In his view, specialization must be continuous, with functions highly coordinated and individuals laced together through their mutual interdependence. Such a state, he argued, will be achieved as the natural and normal process of creating organic solidarity become dominant in the modern society. So he had a very he has an understanding of a very natural process of social change and an organic society which always strives to reach a kind of an optimal or complete integration, which is realized through a very natural coordinated division of labor. And if that does not happen, it leads to quite a lot of problem. If division of labor is entrusted, if it is entrusted, if division of labor is imposed, that creates quite a lot of issues. So if individuals are poorly integrated into collective flow of life, that according to Durkheim can lead to a lot of issues. So in order to kind of summarize this work, combining this class as well as the previous class, as I told you, this is considered to be his magnum opus, Durkheim's most important work. Of course, he has written work on suicide, on rules of sociological method, but his doctoral work and his work and his book, The Division of Labor, is considered to be his most important work. And because it presents a very ambitious original work of Durkheim, that helped him to theoretically and empirically analyze inner dynamics of society as well as social change. So, if you look into the into the objective of his work, or if you look into the theoretical purview of this work, it's a very ambitious one. Okay? On the one hand, he's explaining social change. On the other hand, he's characterizing societies into two different types, modern and pre-modern, through a very innovative argument about this whole argument about collective consciousness, and then characterizing societies into organic and then mechanical solidarity through this analysis of division of labor. So in that sense, it's a very ambitious one, and this work laid foundation to insightful sociological analysis of law, morality, functional analysis, and a host of other issues. So as I told you, anybody who needs to study the relation between society and law cannot do that without studying Durkheim. The kind of a relation between law and society, an extremely important, very very fascinating area of inquiry. How are laws getting formulated? What is its connection with the society? The kind of a reciprocal relationship between law and society. You know that laws are the products of society. At the same time, laws also change society. And every nation, especially a country like India, is a fascinating example. Especially with the imposition of colonial legal system. What did this colonial legal system do to Indian traditional forms of living? You can have different opinion about it, but structurally, how did it alter Indian society? How did it alter the cultural systems and social institutions of Indian society? Fascinating analysis. And any such analysis on law or on functional analysis or on morality, this Durkheim's work is a foundational one. Okay. So I'm ending the class here, and we will resume the discussion on Durkheim with his discussion on suicide in the next class. So thank you.